The Lantius Empire stands out from other maritime powers due to its thriving, distinctive culture, the offspring of the ruling house that laid the foundations of the future state. This is all thanks to outstanding magical abilities. They have reigned in the Lantius Empire for a long time. His Majesty had already received a report of the fire in the east, and by the way, the prince had already been there. But fortunately, it turned out that the fire was not serious, so it was quickly dealt with. The man was very glad that everything worked out. However, he contributed so that the forest was partially restored. But still, it would have been much more effective for His Majesty if he had gone there personally and created rain. Fortunately, Lantius is a place where the Emperor uses his great power solely for the benefit of the people. The woman entered the kitchen to the maids and ordered them to prepare more roast duck for the imperial palace. But the kitchen could not cope, so it was necessary to do everything faster. Suddenly, one of the maids burned herself on a saucepan and dropped the dish on the floor. Luckily, her friend caught the soup, but behind her back, there was a commotion again. Everyone was yelling at the new girl to make her understand that even a year's salary wouldn't be enough to pay for these plates. It's been a week since the main character worked as a maid in the palace. Finally, the working girls were ready to rest, but what was amazing was what she thought. The kitchen in the palace was simply incredible. The lady had been engaged in nothing but physical labor her entire life and had absolutely no strength for anything. The girls began to discuss the crown prince because they were only able to look at him from behind. But the heroine was sure that she would never be able to get used to this atmosphere. The maid thanked Parisa, because if it weren't for her, she would have lost her salary for a whole month today. The girls began to question the brunette, asking her honestly whether she had been in a circus troupe, to which she replied that she had not worked in the circus at all, although she had indeed moved from a fairly respectable place. Everyone started asking if she was a local, because if you think about it, she has a slight accent. One of the maids asked her why she left her previous job, since she was probably paid too much. Instantly, the girls noticed that the servant named Sarah was crying. She screamed that she had no idea what she had done wrong. The thing is that Sarah was cleaning in the Empress's palace, and the head maid scolded her severely. She said that Sarah was beating the carpet too much. Yes, besides, she said, it's good that Her Majesty didn't find out about this. Otherwise, Sarah's head would have been cut off, and it turns out that the rumors are true after all. Rumors about Her Majesty say that she is terribly picky. Has no one heard? Just yesterday, one of the servants involuntarily overheard a conversation between the maids in the kitchen. The other day, even the gardener was fired, allegedly because Her Majesty was not pleased with the smell of the flowers growing in the garden, and someone heard that the imperial librarian was fired because Her Majesty cut herself on a book page. One servant raised her hand because she wanted to tell about that librarian. From what she knows, the poor guy had all his fingers cut off as punishment. After hearing this, everyone became scared, because even thinking about it was already bad. It seemed that she remembered. She had heard somewhere that that gardener's nose had been cut off. And there was also a rumor that Her Majesty collects severed body parts of her servants. There are rumors that if she takes a liking to the hair of her maids, she tears it out by the roots and uses it all for wigs. And she keeps the severed heads of the maids she killed in the pantry. But didn't those who became personal servants of Her Majesty disappear without a trace after a month? The main character no longer had the strength to listen to these ridiculous rumors. The girl said that she would probably go, and it seemed that Parisa wasn't scared at all. The human race is greedy for all kinds of gossip. She thought that they would call her strange there too. The Empress couldn't be so harsh. The next day, maids were selected for the Emperor's palace. Aili was glad, because thank heavens, she was assigned to the Emperor's palace. But suddenly, they announced that Sarah would go to serve in the Empress's palace. Everyone was shocked, because it was this maid who feared the Empress the most. The servants were shouted at to be quiet, because now that the distribution was over, a selection would be made of the maid who would become Her Majesty's personal maid. For this moment, he had been watching them all closely for the past week. Finally, Parisa Minzel was announced as Her Majesty's personal maid. Starting tomorrow, she will work as Her Majesty's personal maid. Sarah started shouting that she would not work in the Empress's palace for any amount of money, and how did she manage to attract the attention of such a high-ranking person? The lady screamed that she did not dare to work for such an empress, and declared that she did not care and was leaving. Everyone suddenly wondered what it would be like for Parisa, a girl who would be at the Empress's shoulder for 24 hours, 7 minutes at a time. She lay on the bed, and they were silent the whole time. The girls even wondered if she was okay. The butler himself said that the maid should try to hold out for 3 months, to which Parisa replied that she liked the job. The man was sure that she knew very well what unflattering rumors were circulating among the low-class servants, but she still insisted that she soberly assess the opportunities that would open up to her. There is a unique chance, but it was worth thinking that if Her Majesty marks a servant, it will be terrible. But the lady does not like to attract unnecessary attention. Besides, she is quite satisfied with the status of a low-class servant. The butler began to shout that Parisa doesn't even understand how many people want the position of personal servant, and if Her Majesty becomes your patron, then this person's entire family will instantly find itself under reliable protection, and she will be paid several times more than in her current position. Apparently, Paris was interested in the salary of the Empress's personal servants. The man opened the scroll with the document, showing a huge figure that indicated the salary of his personal maid. And if the girl starts working tomorrow, she will be able to earn much more. It was incredible. How many years do you have to work hard to earn that much money? Parisa thought she was stupid and tried to avoid getting involved with her superiors. But suddenly, the blue-eyed girl began to think that there must be a reason why they were paying so much money. Maybe the Empress really did have a bad temper. But still, the maid had to hold out for a measly 3 months. Ober brings new people every time to serve the strict woman. She even wondered if everything would be okay with her. Well, compared to what the girl had been doing until now, the position of a personal servant was better. The man was sure that she would be more suitable for Her Majesty than any nobleman. The girl prayed for at least a little luck this time. Finally, new personal servants arrived to Her Majesty. She introduced herself as Parisa Menzel. The pink-haired girl was surprised by the new servant and ordered her to raise her head. She stated that the servant would have to obey all her orders without question, asking if she would show what she was capable of. The moment their gazes met, the whole world around froze. He froze for a moment, and it seemed that Parisa had lived only for this day. The girl knelt down and said that all she had to do was give the order, and she would do everything possible. She will do everything in her power, just for Her Majesty. She almost said that she would give her life without hesitation. The Empress wondered if the young maid had been taught this by other servants, to surprise the girl by falling to her knees. The butler said that it was not worthwhile to approach Her Majesty on her knees, to which she asked for forgiveness. It was a good attitude. The desperate desire to succeed was very commendable, to which the woman asked Parisa if she thought she would use her. The blue-eyed girl didn't understand why. It was as if she was possessed, and her body itself was getting on its knees. In that case, the Empress ordered the girl to jump out of the window. After all, she had just claimed that she was ready for anything, and so the woman ordered her to jump. The brunette was shocked, not understanding if the pink-haired girl was seriously ordering her to jump out of the window. Her Majesty asked if she could not fulfill her wish. From such a height, one can get quite badly injured. She spoke so sweetly, and as the Empress thought, everyone here was throwing around empty words. Now, she is probably barely holding back tears. The lady must want to leave here as soon as possible. But suddenly, Parisa really did jump out of the window, and Her Majesty screamed how such a candidate was chosen for her. All that was required of her was to kneel and beg for mercy. But it would be impolite of the lady to look for a new maid now. As it turned out, the girl survived and climbed into the same window from which she jumped. She was lucky enough to catch hold of a tree. It was just unimaginable luck. She jumped from such a height and managed to land on the ground with ease. In this way, she proved herself to be a humble servant. Parisa bowed and stated that she again greeted Her Majesty, stating her name. The woman started laughing, saying that the blue-eyed one was simply amazing. Well, she'll let her serve her. They'll see how long she stays so desperate. The girl herself was surprised that she succeeded in something. All preparations are completed, and it is worth going one way with another maid, and for the first time, another person helps her with clothes. She should get rid of these rags immediately, because the Empress's personal maid cannot walk around in torn rags. Parisa spent all her money on clothes, and she certainly did a great job. However, the lady should have warned the butler in advance. She couldn't remember a single time when the first meeting had gone so smoothly. By the way, at their first meeting, she ordered her to jump out the window. Should the girl worry about her future, because it must get even worse over time. The personal servant must be perceptive to serve this woman. Luckily, tomorrow she will have to leave the palace. The servant's task is to choose a suitable outfit for the Empress. Luckily, the brunette's first task is not very difficult. The pink-haired girl screamed that the girl had no taste and couldn't even pick out one dress. This was already the 100th attempt to pick out a dress, and what can she do if they all look like 2 peas in a pod? Suddenly, one of the assistants suggested to Parisa that she needed to pick out a blue dress. The blue-eyed girl showed the girl a blue dress, offering to try it on. but another blue dress was needed to suit the Empress. They took too long to choose an outfit, and Her Majesty could not believe that she had been given a maid who was not capable of choosing even one single dress. But suddenly, the maid reported that this woman was dazzling in everything she wore. In an instant, the Empress demanded that a knife be brought to her immediately. The pink-haired girl screamed for something spicy to be brought to her, creating a terrible atmosphere. This is all because Parisa was unable to choose a dress that she liked. According to rumors, if she takes a liking to the hair of maids, she makes wigs out of them and keeps the heads of the unfortunate maids in the pantry. She had a headache and even thought about running away before things got worse. The pink-haired girl ordered these disgusting outfits to be cut into pieces. It was very simple, so the Empress herself began to ruin the dress. Her Majesty touched the maid's chin and said that she was giving her one last chance. Pink-Eyed also ordered her to pick out shoes to match the dress she had chosen. She really hoped that the maid would cope with this. Parisa thought about how beautiful this woman was, to which she put the tip of the knife to the lady's face, telling her not to make a mistake with her choice, otherwise she would lose an eye. At that moment, the brunette could only think of one thing. She wondered why the Empress didn't choose herself. Even if she chooses, in the end, Parisa will simply waste precious time. If, as a result of her inept choice, the beauty of the Empress were to fade, this was not the outcome that she, as a sincere and devoted servant to her master, could wish for. The woman got angry and ordered the assistant to bring new shoes, the ones that were delivered yesterday. From tomorrow, Parisa is free, because, in the opinion of the pink-haired girl, she is so stupid that she does not realize her place. Her Majesty liked the new shoes. She knew they were the best option, but her personal servant said that she would not be able to walk in those shoes. After all, the center of gravity is greatly shifted in these shoes. It's easy to lose your balance and fall. It would be better to choose a different pair. The Empress was shocked. Did the servant really dare to say something? She stood up and screamed, "Did the lady really want to die?" But suddenly, the girl turned out to be right, and Her Majesty began to lose her balance. Finally, Parisa had her chance, so she caught Her Majesty and lifted her into her arms. She said she had warned her that the shoes were extremely unstable. The day turned out to be quite difficult for Parisa. All the maids began to ask the girl if she was okay and if everything was fine. For God's sake, they asked her to tell them that it wasn't she who jumped out of the window today. They were told that someone had seen her lifeless body stuck in a tree, and they were all terribly worried just thinking about how she had broken her arms and legs. The girl was surprised that the rumors spread so quickly. The servants began to think that the rumors about Her Majesty waving a knife were just another slander, but the lady said that it was true. Nobody knew what to do, and it was terrible that something terrible had happened to Parisa. However, they are right. At the moment when the Empress pointed the knife at the girl, it was scary. She did not see any intention to harm her in her eyes. Not at all, it was something else. The pink one looked more like an evil cat. When Parisa thought about it, everyone thought she was too shocked. It was super adorable. Basically, they don't have to worry about that much anymore. Although, in fact, the girl was fired, and her safety is above all else. Because if she makes the slightest mistake, it will be bad. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door, and the maids wondered who was there. It was Ober who declared that Parisa should pack his things immediately. She's moving. She'll have to go to the Empress's palace. This was an order from Her Majesty. In the future, the brunette would become her closest assistant. The next day, there were rumors about yesterday's maid, who, as many thought, had long since been kicked out. It was strange. Just yesterday, the pink-haired girl was screaming for Parisa to be taken away from her immediately. By order of Her Majesty, she will now soon become her closest servant. She was curious about what was going on in the Empress's head. Suddenly, the girl was distracted by the Empress, who asked what she was doing there. Blue-Eyed bowed and asked how she had dreamed the previous night. She thought that her servant was holding up well after everything that had happened yesterday, saying that she would tell her about her duties. From now on, the lady runs the tea room. Every day after the morning meal, she must bring the woman a cup of tea. The brunette was surprised that the Empress did not mention yesterday. It didn't even seem like she was in a bad mood. The pink-haired girl pointed her finger towards the door and ordered that a cup of tea be brought to her immediately. Compared to choosing outfits, this is a piece of cake. Today the girl will make up for yesterday's mistake. It was that very impeccable tea, perfectly suited to Her Majesty. In an instant, Paris was distracted by another maid saying her full name. The girl said that the brunette would get into serious trouble as soon as this tea was released. It was very important to take into account all possible factors and carefully prepare for any color of the Empress or for any aroma of flowers. It turns out that even a cup of tea is far from easy to cope with, And as the lady thought, she is completely impossible to please. Then maybe it makes sense to choose tea leaves that have a beneficial effect on the state of the body and mind. It must have been difficult for her after everything that happened yesterday because she screamed so loudly and tore her dresses. Finally, the servant gave the pink one her tea, and she took a couple of sips from the cup. She liked this tea. It gives her soul peace and harmony. Even if she's not very good at reading the atmosphere, there still seem to be things that Parisa is good at. The woman said that in the future, she intends to entrust her with many other duties. She also asked if the servants were ready to follow her everywhere. The girl said that she would be very happy to follow the Empress. It sounded promising. And then it was worth moving on to the next task. And the lady said that she would do everything she ordered. As expected, the rumors were greatly exaggerated. Well, or she has an innate talent for this job. The lady can't believe that such a picky empress liked her choice. True, Her Majesty could not understand this. A more devoted servant simply could not be found, so the girl is simply irreplaceable. The butler expressed his respect to Her Majesty in order to lift her spirits. With all due respect, he wanted to ask what she was thinking. Anyone you asked would say that she was not acting like herself, since she suddenly decided to bring a new servant to the palace. But the thing was that the Empress simply changed her mind. Most likely it was because she said it to take care of the woman. This self-confident girl made a remark to her, knowing that this one remark could cost her her life. And the Empress cannot just let such a servant go. Finally, Parisa arrived at the command of Her Majesty. She came to prepare the horses for riding. It was very interesting to see what the riding horses of Her Majesty the Empress look like. The woman proudly stated that for this very reason, it would be a serious omission to say goodbye to her so suddenly. The man nearby pointed to a huge number of horses, saying that all these horses belonged to Her Majesty. He asked which horse exactly this girl needed. In an instant, the Empress leaned her ear to the maid, saying that she would like to ask her for something special, but she should keep in mind that she must listen to her very carefully. She wanted the brunette to personally take care of her beloved horses. And only to Parisa can she entrust such an important task so that not a single horse is left without attention. The groom reported that Her Majesty had not appeared here for several years. Blue-Eyed stood in the stable and carefully washed the skin of the horses. As it turned out, the favorite horse doesn't exist at all, because the pink-haired one isn't interested in them at all. So much time has passed since the groom's last meeting with the Empress. It was great that at least the horse was happy here, to which the man remarked that the lady was doing well, asking if she had done this before, because the horses really liked her. By the way, they had already dealt with 10 animals, so it was worth pushing harder, because there was only a little bit left. Parisa wondered why the Empress needed so many horses if she never even rode them. No matter how much she resists it, the brunette will not give it up just like that. Blue Eyes began to look at the horse and concluded that it had good muscle balance, as well as a shiny, silky mane. The lady wondered if it was dangerous for her heart, thinking that it would be worth giving her a couple of riding lessons. But it's hard to even imagine this. It's unlikely that she would do this even despite her. The groom suddenly said that it would be better not to touch one horse. She was already stroking the horse's neck, but the man completely forgot to tell everything. The thing is that she has a very difficult character. If you offend her, or even slightly traumatize her, she can flare up in earnest. If you make one mistake, it can hurt. The pink-haired girl sat in her chambers and painted wonderful pictures with a brush. Today, she felt especially bored, she thought. She asked if there was anything planned for the afternoon, to which Weber replied that there was none at all. Although, if you think about it, right now, she has a personal maid. The woman stood up from her chair and began to laugh loudly. She immediately shouted the name of her butler to give him a new order. The Empress said that she needed to prepare the carriage immediately. No matter how much the groom thought about it, this servant was amazing to him. He didn't understand how Parisa managed to escape without a scratch, to which she said that the horse was fine. The problem was with her hot-tempered nature. The girl thinks that she just needs to relax a little to calm down completely, so the servant wants to take a walk with her. Even for him, a groom who has worked here for many years, this horse is not easy. In recent years, the requirements for selecting servants have changed. In an instant, the Empress appeared, holding her umbrella in her hand and watching her servants. She suggested that it was hard work in the stable, to which the groom was surprised by her appearance. The man shouted that everything was clean here, and the woman would never have to see the stable like this again. The pink-haired girl asked if Parisa Menzel was coping with her job. The brunette was surprised that she simply changed the subject and didn't start to get indignant. The groom reported that thanks to the new maid, with whom they had been unable to sort things out for a long time, even the most difficult task, which was the most difficult to complete, was completed. Her Majesty shouted at him to shut up, because she would decide how good this girl was. She will deal with this personally by asking where Parisa Menzel is now. The woman asked Weber what he thought about this. Doesn't it seem to him that some people have the audacity to treat her orders with disdain? The old man said that he doubted it, to which she shouted at him to look out the window. She saw that her personal maid was fooling around with a horse instead of doing her duties. Moreover, how dare she tame Her Majesty's horse? Well, she used the woman's order as a pretext to fulfill her personal whim. From the very beginning, the lady was curious as to why she was behaving so boldly, without thinking about the consequences. The Empress seemed to be looking into the future. It was obvious that Parisa would try to grab something for herself while being subordinate to her. The woman ordered to watch this girl closely. She is impudent, because she probably couldn't even think that she would be caught red-handed. The butler was surprised to realize that Her Majesty was so concerned about this. But suddenly, the Empress saw that Paris was riding her horse and was behaving as if the horse belonged to her. This won't do. We must immediately return to the Empress what belongs to her. The woman stuck her head out the window when suddenly one of the horses began to lick her hair. She started screaming that even the horses wanted to piss her off, but most likely she liked the smell of her hair. The carriage immediately rushed forward to save the Empress from discomfort. The girl stroked the horse, realizing that it had calmed down and was now even more willing to let her ride. Just a little more, and Her Majesty would be able to ride on it. But suddenly, the servant saw that a carriage with the Empress in it was moving towards them with a horse. She screamed for the servants to react faster because they couldn't stop the carriage. Seeing the frightened Empress, Parisa was very surprised, trying to understand how she should react. A man driving a carriage with horses cannot stop the carriage because it has been pushed too far. Suddenly, a girl appeared in the window, riding a horse, saying that she would help. She asked him to grab her hand and jump, holding out his hand to the Empress. The Empress thought it was madness because the carriage was moving, but the servants asked her to trust her. The butler was shocked, saying that there was no point in really thinking about jumping. It was too dangerous, but still, Her Majesty took the lady by the hand. She jumped straight into the arms of the girl who was waiting for her, riding a horse. She placed her on the horse in front of her so that she would be safe. The brunette asked if the woman was okay, as she didn't understand why her servants were so cool. The girl was told that she no longer had to work in the stables, because the pink-haired girl was told that she had done a good job with the task. Her clothes were all dirty, so she decided that she would not dare to approach the horses anymore. Her Majesty was told that His Highness the Crown Prince had arrived to visit the Empress. She was angry because he always came without warning. Come to think of it, he was often gossiped about in the dorm. The girls were always discussing him. I was wondering what kind of person this guy was, when suddenly he appeared, as if radiating light from himself. He bowed and asked how his mother had been doing all this time. Blue-Eyed was simply shocked at how overly handsome he was. The blonde apologized for showing up uninvited, but if he had really been ashamed, he might not have come. The girl simply couldn't believe that this prince was real, because his appearance was striking. The crown prince is very similar to the Empress. This radiance is hereditary. The Empress went away to change her clothes, by the way. She was not very happy to see her own son. Being the son of the Empress, who died 16 years ago, he is the free brother of the young twins born to the current Empress. They do not get along because the prince has the title of heiress. However, in this situation, His Highness is too kind to the Empress, and he has quite legally acquired power, which is passed down through the imperial family by inheritance. At that time, such casual behavior was strange. The servant apologized for the fact that she had been inadvertently distracted. Parisa continued to lose her mind, wondering why the Empress was taking so long to return. The guy asked if this girl was really helping his mother and if it was worth it. She has a very difficult character. He had the opportunity to observe how Parisa works under her command. Somehow, it was hard to believe that she was a simple servant. The lady replied that she was afraid that the man was mistaken, because she was a very ordinary servant. The blonde noticed that the lady did not have beautiful, unpampered hands. These were not the hands of a maid accustomed to housework. These are the hands of a man who has been trained to hold a real sword. The prince asked the maid's name, to which she gave hers, which he found very interesting. He came a little closer, declaring that someone like her was mother's personal servant. Blue-Eyed became afraid that the man knew something about her, so she asked what His Highness was doing. Suddenly, the Empress entered the room, and the girl immediately moved away from her son. The pink-haired girl immediately asked sternly what this guy was doing with her maid. The blonde said that they were already tired of waiting for the Empress. Then she asked why this man had not returned to himself. What kind of business is this that made him personally drag himself here? The day before, his father had made him an offer. Would the woman be so kind as to accompany him to a couple of upcoming balls as a companion? The woman has not attended social events for a long time, and this is a great opportunity to renew her activity in public life. The Empress slammed the table and screamed that he didn't understand anything at all. He was not delighted either, however. Her Majesty did not contribute to the search for a suitable bride for him. Still, it was beneficial for both of them. All he had to do was announce that the pink-haired girl had come to the ball with him, and he wouldn't have to dance with any of the girls. He didn't come to ask, he came to give a clear order to his own mother. By the way, the woman's personal maid makes very good tea, but I think another could have done it much better. She didn't understand what the point was in offending her. He'll drop by to see her next week. He should be kind and get ready. They'll go to Marquis Velber's ball. The woman called him a beetle, which does not at all correspond to the prince's appearance. He thinks that the Empress will pretend to be a bridesmaid. It seems that Parisa understood where this hostility came from. The pink-haired girl didn't want to go to the ball. She just couldn't show up there with that useless idiot. The Empress screamed that Parisa simply could not have a debut. That's why this is her chance, and the woman wants to take her with her. The culture and life of the secular society of the Lantius Empire was amazing. The world in which aristocrats live, to a superficial observer, it would seem that the nobles only indulge in pleasures and bathe in luxury, that any of their dreams comes true at the wave of a single thought. However, the society here is built on complex interactions. Ladies set cultural trends, and fashion is formed under their influence, strengthening influence on the formation of unions of aristocratic families. With due luck, there is a chance to grab the place of the bride of the crown prince. It was during Her Majesty the Empress's debut in high society that the Emperor noticed her. Makeup and fashionable outfits are now on par with military uniforms, a place full of wealth, power struggles, love affairs, and hidden competition. Her Majesty was informed that everything was ready. This is also a kind of struggle, she, Parisa Mazel, helping Her Majesty. The girl announces that she is entering a completely new battle. The lady said that she was not in the best fighting mood, but she looked just awful with makeup. It was unthinkable. It was unforgivable to even enter this room in such a state. It's weird. She has a nice face shape and proportions, but nothing suits her. The maid said that what she had in her hands was the last thing left. The woman began to examine her servant, trying to understand what could be done with her. She understood that nothing suited her at all. Blue-eyed asked why she was dressing up and not the Empress, but Her Majesty wanted to help the lady with her debut because it was taking place in high society, and this was too unique an opportunity for which Parisa should be grateful. The brunette did not understand what was so remarkable about aristocratic society. The pink-haired girl explained that high aristocratic society differs from provincial society in that the circle of people invited to social events, in addition to nobles, also includes the imperial family. The art of conversation, dancing, etiquette. If you like a girl in any way, it won't be hard to find a man who wants to sponsor her. There is still a chance to meet honored guests from other countries. If her debut goes perfectly, his name may become famous in a foreign country. The woman screamed that she had been looking for Parisa everywhere, but she had been hiding here the whole time. She screamed at her to wait and let her at least say something. She brandished her sword and called the maid a traitor. The brunette asked when the ball would take place, to which she was told that it would be next week. For some reason, the blue-eyed one began to worry and became very nervous. The Empress stated that she seemed to know it. She had been saving this dress for a book party. It was the most suitable style for her. Even the makeup softened the girl's features very successfully. Parisa herself was surprised that she actually looked good. The girl announced that she would not debut because she simply could not. The guy asked what His Highness thought about this. The blonde liked everything, except that it turned out a little too beautiful. He assumed he would be irresistible, but not to this extent. The prince reported that his assistant had done a good job. Everything was perfect, as always. Now he was completely ready. It can't be helped. The crown prince is simply dazzling no matter how you look at him. A young man came about his order. He showed up to report on the interim results of the investigation. He began to tell that Paranese was 24 years old. He took up fencing as a hobby. His physical strength was well developed, and his health was fine. The blonde wondered if he would have calluses on his hands if fencing were just a hobby. Unfortunately, that's all. Their investigation reached a dead end here. He tried to find information about the activity over the past 10 years, but no traces were found on the territory of their country. It was also not possible to establish the genealogy of the Menzel family. The former head of the corresponding family is currently dead, and that's all. Nothing more is known. It cannot be ruled out that this girl is only pretending to be an aristocrat. Now the prince is worried whether it is a coincidence that this suspicious lady ended up in the position of mother's personal servant. The boy asked what he would order him to do next. But nothing yet. The blonde needs to know more to do something. The green-eyed man said that he would deal with all this himself. Dancing was the only thing the maid could think of. Parisa is doing very well. It was the first time the Empress had seen someone control her movements so well. Pink knew it. This girl didn't need to study, but the brunette tried to convince the woman that it was a misunderstanding. The personal maid has an unrivaled sense of balance, and she still has some talents. She simply enjoyed teaching because she had been developing her body since childhood. The Empress in every way told the girl how to move so that she could do everything as needed. It was so wonderful, so much so that the girl thought she would soon go crazy. Everything was perfect, and there were no flaws. The ball is tomorrow, so we need to go to bed early tonight. Does she really have to quit and there are no other options? After they were assigned here, so many things fell on her head that she was unable to properly introduce herself. Marie said that personal maids had never stayed in their position for so long, asking if she could speak informally, to which the blue-eyed man replied that if it was comfortable, then it was okay, because the girl looked good-natured, and most likely they were the same age. To be honest, this is the first time that Her Majesty has held the position of maid of honor for one person for a long time, and she even takes care of her, but their first meeting did not go so smoothly. The girl asked how many people were punished and fired in this way. The maids who have been here for a long time often talked about this, but in fact, none of them have been fired yet. Marie promised to come back soon and give her a facial massage. By the way, for some reason, Parisa was in a wonderful mood right now. The little girl said that you shouldn't force yourself if you don't want to. The woman promised Parisa to become stronger and take revenge on everyone who dared to laugh at her and call her weak. The girl invited the girl to go with her, because together they would become stronger and she would always be by her side. They sealed their promise with a handshake, saying that wherever she went, the other would go with her. Blue-eyed woke up lying on the floor, realizing that it was just a dream. The butler was surprised that the lady was actually making her debut, and that it was a real debut in high society. It felt like the girl was disguising herself. By the way, Parisa didn't pay attention during the fitting, but this dress, it's too unusual. The woman said that the gait should be light and graceful, like a feather. The prince arrived to escort his mother. It was a blinding blow to the heart, and Parisa wondered if he was even real, but every time she saw him, the girl's self-esteem suffered irreparably. The prince asked if this was the same maid, to which the Empress called her her brilliant creation. The blonde said that his mother was especially beautiful today. This was quite expected, which spoiled the mood. Parisa managed to ruin her hairstyle very quickly. Today, it is her creation, so there is no need to ruin everything before the Empress can show it off. The man stated that the woman had a wonderful relationship with her maid. However, this was the first time we heard of Paris Menzel. Even such a surname did not exist. The blue-eyed woman said that she comes from the provinces, so there is nothing surprising about this. The green-eyed man was surprised that the girl really got into it. The Empress cried out that it was very disappointing to hear such things from the prince, so he should not dare to neglect provincial births. When they first met, the lady didn't even have a decent dress. The blonde asked me to take care of him today. Her Majesty said that the man had misunderstood everything because she would not be his partner today. After all, today, the Crown Prince is accompanying Parisa Menzel. Her Majesty, the Empress, and His Highness the Crown Prince have arrived. Everyone was surprised that His Highness was also here. The Crown Prince very rarely attends balls, so it was surprising that he was accompanying his partner. The girl screamed that she had not been told anything about this, which made her angry because she was resisting his order. Even if she could not, she still had to obey. Young ladies from all over the world would sell their souls just to hold hands with the Crown Prince, and she personally grants it for the whole evening. But the blonde didn't care even if his partner was some kind of servant. The guy said that the servants could feel free and trust their hearts. His face blinded the brunette again. Again, she thought about this stupidity, because he spoke as if they had known each other since they were in diapers. All the aristocrats bowed and asked how the prince had been doing all this time. He said that they had not crossed paths with them for a long time, asking how they themselves were living. One of them was so happy to see the prince after such a long time, which made him flattered. First, they should have greeted Her Majesty the Empress, not her son. But the aristocrats were not even aware that all this time, Her Majesty was here. They bowed and greeted the woman, asking how she was doing. The girl was afraid that they might interfere with her usual peaceful pastime. And yet, the aristocrat was interested in who this lady was next to the Crown Prince, because she was seeing her for the first time. The man said that this was Her Majesty's personal servant. This was her debut in high society, and he was the blonde man's companion. The girls were surprised that this was Her Majesty's personal servant and not an aristocrat. Parisa is very lucky. She is just making her debut, and she is already His Highness's companion. Maybe that aristocrat should also have become a maid of honor. By the way, everyone was hearing the name Minsel for the first time. Blue-Eyed said that she was from the provinces, so there was nothing surprising about this. The aristocrats knew little about distant places. They began to wonder how Parisa was living in the capital and how long it took to get to her homeland by carriage. For a village girl, the girl looked quite graceful. They would not want to offend her but she was probably very worried about her debut. The servants now understood perfectly well why the Empress did not like balls so much. She said this because she foresaw something like this. Her Majesty said that this is precisely why, among all the ladies, Parisa is the most interesting person. Whether she is a capital aristocrat or comes from the provinces, is that really the only thing they care about? A lady of the world mistake. It seems they have a special relationship with their maid, because the pink-haired one is too sensitive to everything that is said to her. The maid was angry. How dare they speak so arrogantly to the Empress? The Sea of Aegis washes 3 states. The blessing of the god of the sea is the power granted in his name. Blessing, true to its true nature, is something that is given only to the chosen ones who possess certain qualities. And quite naturally, these people have always been objects of admiration due to their abilities. Soon this gift from God became the personification of state power. Even if it's just a little, the prince is definitely afraid of her, who has a power similar to God's blessing. One lady said that she thought exactly the same. She thought Lady Parisa looked stunning today. The girl, however, believes that among all the ladies at the ball, she looks the best. Yellow Eyes kept wondering who had worked so hard on the image, but it turned out that Her Majesty had personally taken care of it. The woman reported that the lady was very perceptive in realizing that she was Countess Boucher. Surprisingly, the Empress remembers her because she was present at her debut. One lady broke in, apologizing for interrupting the conversation, but however, they seemed to be wasting his time, so they would probably go away so as not to disturb the Empress. The prince said that the ball would be opening soon, and he hoped that everyone would have fun today. The girl thanked Her Highness, saying that then they would go and rest. Parisa was angry, because they had been arrogant with Her Highness until the very end, and the prince noticed how the blue-eyed one had released this energy without realizing it. The servants asked the Empress what the hell these ladies were doing, since such bad manners had to be stopped, but the pink one only asked her to get ready for the first dance. The man asked if his mother's personal maid was ready for the first dance. The pink-eyed woman did not understand why the brunette was surprised, because the capital's balls were opened by a member of the imperial family, and the prince's partner today was she. Now this moment has come, and in this duel the maid's opponent will be the crown prince himself. No, if the lady dances and entertains others, then the Empress's mood may improve. The girl approached the blonde and said that she had to warn him in advance. She said that she could easily trample all his feet. Parisa also added that the crown prince would be an unbearable pain. At this he only laughed, but the maid assured him that she was not joking, because she had only learned to dance last week, and besides, she was quite heavy. The man called it funny and said he would try to prevent it from happening. The prince said that he also needed to warn his partner about something. The green-eyed man began to dance with the girl, asking her not to faint. All the maids began to say that accompanying the prince was a good start, but Parisa preferred not to remember it. But her friend thought it was a great honor. Rumors that last night the lady had fulfilled the dream of many ladies were flying around like hot cakes, and that was quite enough for high society. In any case, Parisa said that such an incident will not happen again, but apparently she still doesn't know. The butler entered the room and announced that after the ball, Her Majesty had given the servant a day off, and on top of that, she gets a special bonus for the weekend. The girl bowed and took the envelope with money, thanking the man, to which he responded that her love for money was unwavering. However, they gave her 2 days to rest, so they will see each other soon. Although, unlike others, Parisa is Her Majesty's personal servant. It's okay if the lady is not next to the Empress. The friend asked the maid what she was planning to do on the weekend, and whether she had already thought of anything. In that case, Marie decided to take on the task herself, suggesting that they go shopping on the shopping street. There was a relative's house nearby, and they could stay there for the night, but the blue-eyed girl was worried whether everything would be okay since she had been given an official day off. In that case, Marie went and got ready, saying that they would meet at the back entrance to the palace. Anyway, the girl had experienced a terribly tiring adventure, so she also decided to take advantage of the opportunity to have a good rest. The knight informed His Highness that, on his orders, he had completed the investigation. The blonde considered this good news, ordering everything to be laid out, namely, to tell all the information about the Menzel family. He said that the aristocratic family name was in fact only a noble title, and that it was in no way connected to the emperor. It was an unremarkable noble family, more or less known outside the capital. But some details still seemed suspicious to him. The guy was never able to find out what Paresa did before she became a maid in the imperial palace, as if she had never existed before. The prince was given documents on the other side, which contained details of the death of the late head of the Menzel family. Due to the absence of a legal spouse, he had no official heirs. Subsequently, the title of Viscount was inherited by his younger brother. As the blonde thought, that was the whole point. The investigation into people with magical abilities, unfortunately, did not bear fruit. There was nothing that could be done about it. People endowed with special powers were scattered all over the world, so the prince admitted that finding information about the most powerful ability would be extremely difficult. Unlike Lantius, where the heir to the throne is the strongest mage, in other countries, many more people are blessed. Information can be obtained in cooperation with other countries. Otherwise, it will not be possible to find out either the approximate scale or personal information. It would be unwise to risk and try to extract information close to a military secret through espionage. Suddenly, a little boy entered the heir's office, saying that he was there regarding the object of surveillance and that he had something to report. A boy named Claude was impeccable, by the way, at this time, so he was ordered to continue surveillance of Paresa Menzel. Marie said that she had not walked in the city center for a long time. Until now, Paresa had only traveled to palaces, but here it was too crowded. The girls said that they were servants of the Empress's palace, so they could afford to walk and relax wherever they wanted. Suddenly, the brunette saw that one necklace in the boutique cost 500 nira. It was a street with expensive shops, that's why it was so empty. Marie said that they worked in the palace and must always maintain their dignity. Moreover, Paris is Her Majesty's personal servant, and she generally needs to be very careful about her reputation so as not to destroy the Empress's authority. It seems that the maid knows which store she definitely needs to take her friend to. This shop uses crystals instead of gemstones, so the price is lower. Decretion of products with lace and crystals allows to use lower quality fabrics in sewing. The girl has already seen this design. It is used in mass production. The brunette spent a lot of time in the Empress's dressing room, so she is now quite well informed. Suddenly, the saleswoman recognized Lady Menzel because she was rumored to be His Highness's lady. She said that everyone in this shopping street knew her. Lady Menzel herself had come to shop with them, and the red-haired woman would be happy to provide a special discount. Marie asked why the lady had not chosen anything in the store. She must have preferred a different style of clothing. Blue Eyes was amazed at how quickly rumors spread in this country. This is a big problem, just a huge one. Her Majesty's personal servants appeared with the Crown Prince in public, and the news spread all the way to neighboring countries. Suddenly, someone recognized the girl again and asked if she was Lady Paresa. The woman said that thanks to this lady, they have an incredible number of orders. She told them about the dress that she wore at the ball. It seems that it was this stranger who designed that dress. Paresa was glad to meet him, because thanks to the designer's diligence, her debut was a success. The redhead asked, since they had run into each other so fortunately, if the maid would like to visit her boutique, because she wanted to pick out an outfit for the lady again. Marie persuaded her friend to agree, because Viscountess Venus is now the most sought-after couturier. They picked out a dress for the brunette, and the girl standing next to her was surprised at how beautiful Paresa was. What else would you expect from the Empress's own couturier, with just the right amount of jewelry and high-quality fabric? Marie began to ask the blue-eyed woman if she liked the dress and if she would buy it, to which she replied that she also liked it very much. replied that she was very lucky that the knights had arrived at the last minute. Then perhaps the man would like to ask the maid one last question, namely, to find out what the girl knows about Dunamis. It is an island nation located in the northeastern waters of the Sea of Aegeus. Along with the Lantius Empire and the Oligot Kingdom, Dunamis is one of the 3 states that share the power of the sea deity Aegeus. The blonde knew a lot of interesting things about this kingdom. For example, this is where the second son of the Menzel family immigrated. Hearing this, the girl was very surprised and widened her eyes. The prince, using his power, summoned huge plants from underground, which grabbed the maid by the hands. He said that in the kingdom of Dunamis, power can awaken not only in members of the royal family. She immediately asked if the blonde was planning to get rid of her, to which she received a negative answer. Because she had a blessing, one way or another, the girl would have been able to get out. The brunette asked what would have happened if the heir had made a mistake, which was simply out of the question. As the heir to the throne of Lantius, the man had spent his entire life interacting closely with the descendants of Mana, so it was no surprise that he was able to sense the energy that Parisa had so carelessly released. And in that case, he was very eager to hear Lady Menzel's excuses. He began to ask what the purpose of the lady's arrival was, and the reason why she was hiding everything. The blonde advised him to think carefully, because his verdict would directly depend on what Parisa would say now. The lady explained that she was Her Majesty's personal servant, and nothing more. But no matter how much the prince sniffed around, nothing would happen, although the blonde knew that she was not a simple servant. One day, such a personal servant of the Empress appeared, a provincial lady without a pedigree and a past that practically does not exist, and this is quite enough for work. However, everything changes if the stranger who entered the palace is a carrier of the aura of the sword, and this cannot be allowed. Therefore, now, Parisa is effectively detained on suspicion of espionage. After the interrogation, the girl will be removed from her position as a personal servant, and it would have been better for the lady to voluntarily confess everything, but she preferred to remain silent. The blonde asked if she really meant to say that she had been trained so well that she didn't want to talk. The brunette said that she simply had nothing to say, but she was not a spy, and the prince was wasting his time and energy. His Majesty said that it would be better if her words were true. The blue-eyed one did not lie about anything. However, His Highness has reason to suspect Dunamis of espionage. As the man himself knows, Dunamis is invulnerable thanks to the magic of swordsmen. Her origin plays a role, because the girl has talent and aspiration. In the territory of the kingdom, strength is not an aid to power. Proportionally to abilities, the responsibility for protecting and leading people increases. The owner of the divine gift has his own purpose. If a person has strayed from the right path, the blessing is withdrawn. Lady Menzel swore by the name of the sea deity Aegeus, and she dares to claim that the blessing is still as strong as ever and insists on her innocence. But still, His Highness is a little aware of the purpose. Then he asked what she could tell him about the successor to the royal power of Dunamis, Crown Princess Rebel Dunamis. She still had nothing to tell him, and even about the fact that she was called the most influential person in Dunamis, the prince asked to tell about the people who carry out the will of the royal family, called the Knights of Bologna. Since the blonde is also an heir, he is well aware of her. Of the 4 children of the current king, she is the only daughter, and therefore stands last in line to the throne. This is the history of the Dunamis royal family today. No one expected that the princess would gain such a powerful force. Before the absolute power of the ruler, even the current king, her father, bowed his head before her. News of her as the most outstanding successor of the generation spread with such speed that one would not have heard of the princess. So, wasn't Parisa the right hand of that same notorious Rebella? The prince asked him to give him at least one reason why he should believe that this maid was not a spy sent by the Knights of Bologna, carrying out the orders of the crown princess of another kingdom. The brunette didn't expect the conversation to go this far. Since he was so well prepared, he should also know that the princess treats her subordinates as her property. The girl ran away from there of her own free will. If she hadn't fled abroad, things could have ended much worse for her than they did now. The woman started shouting that it was really so difficult to carry out just one order. Marie said that she sincerely regretted having offended Countess Roselle. The countess declared that since she was a provincial, it should be easier for her to win a man over. All that was required of her was to prepare a place for her in high society. Since the maid is no longer capable of anything, it is worth answering at least one question. What kind of person is this girl named Parisa Menzel? The girl said that inside the girl there is nothing. It seems that she is indifferent to everything because of the privileges granted to her by the Empress herself as a personal servant. She follows her everywhere, despite all the dirty rumors. In addition, she is very stubborn. Her devotion to the Empress is sincere and cannot be understood. The redhead asked if there was anything in the world that could not be taken away. Then, Marie must understand what is required of her. By the way, rumors reached the Countess that he was returning, and it is always worth remembering thanks to whom this servant takes her place. The personal maid was taken to a room with a large bed in pink tones. Blue-Eyed was surprised that the room was so huge, because she would be the only one living in such a large room, because His Highness provided her with the best room among the free ones in the guest houses nearby. In addition, as an apology, he prepared something else. The maid thought that it was unlikely that the prince knew how to ask for forgiveness at all. The knight suddenly bowed and said that he would like to thank the girl on his own behalf. He was watching Parisa on the orders of His Highness when trouble happened to their friend. It was no coincidence that he was nearby. The red-haired man could have immediately rushed to help, but he neglected his duties. While the man hesitated, the lady, without thinking, rushed after the criminals. As soon as the prince's assistant came to his senses, he immediately called for reinforcements, thanking her for showing nobility by standing up against injustice alone. The brunette replied that she was just doing what she had to do. Blue-Eyed was more interested in the fact that she would receive a monetary reward. The personal maid returned to Her Majesty, wishing her good morning. Apparently the Empress is in a bad mood. It seems that the furniture and decor had been rearranged, and the lady was interested in what had happened in her absence. The pink-haired girl ordered him to stop standing there like a pillar and help her get ready to go out. It seems that 2 days of vacation have had a negative impact on Parisa's attitude towards work, and if she continues in the same spirit, she will not see much vacation pay. The brunette was even offended. If she'd had the opportunity to have a normal rest, everything would have been different. Of all the people in the world, she had fallen into the hands of the crown prince. Blue-Eyed ran away from Dunamis without permission. If she had not managed to hide abroad, it would have been bad. The prince said that no matter how you look at it, the maid's story was still complete nonsense, and all the plots didn't fit together. Parisa claimed that she was hiding, but then why did she become the personal maid of the imperial family? As far as the fugitive knew, not long ago she was a very ordinary low-class servant, and yet even a maid in the imperial palace was a prominent position. The lady suddenly confessed that she had run out of money. She had been cheated in some godforsaken shop. There was not a penny left for travel expenses, and the highest-paying job on the exchange turned out to be that of a maid in a palace. The girl hasn't caused any problems so far, so she'll just continue in the same spirit. Suddenly, the maid announced that she needed to tell Her Majesty something. His Highness said that if the lady did not want to be removed from her position as his mother's personal servant, then she should be kind enough to fulfill one condition. Blue-Eyed admitted that, to be honest, she came from Dunamis. The prince said to reveal his secret to his mother and promised not to use the aura, and the man would allow the girl to continue to hide it. But the pink one had already known everything for a long time, asking who her servant took her for. After all, she was an empress. As soon as she heard her accent, she immediately understood everything, a pronunciation characteristic of the inhabitants of port cities and citizens of the kingdom of Dunamis. The brunette asked if the woman didn't find it strange. The lady began to justify herself, claiming that she was not a spy from an enemy country. It made no sense, since the brunette would not have been able to find out anything from the Empress. Even if you think about it, no one in their right mind would send someone like her to spy on Her Majesty. Parisa is completely lacking in intelligence, and her carelessness did not allow Her Majesty to doubt for a second. One of the maids reported that His Majesty the Emperor had finally returned. The man sincerely regretted that he had to leave his wife for so long. But no matter how many things fall on him, the Emperor does not want the Empress to listen to these pathetic excuses. He was inattentive to her, and this deeply hurts his loving heart. The girl thought that the Emperor was better preserved than she imagined. She heard that they had a 10-year age difference. He seemed to her an innumerable debauchee, not yet in his first freshness. However, its beauty is striking, and it seems that the Empress is feeling well. The awkwardness was obviously caused by the lady's failure to introduce herself properly. His Majesty rarely appears, as Parisa thought, but it turns out that he comes quite often. Recently, he was very busy putting out a large forest fire in the east. It is known that since the Emperor has a magical attribute called water, which heals wounds, the fire would cause great damage to the environment. Even His Highness the Crown Prince helped revive the forest with the fertile power of the earth attribute. The brunette had heard that in Lantius, only members of the imperial family were blessed. In any case, Lady Menzel did not expect that she would have the opportunity to meet the emperor in person so soon. Although the empress does not like the prince, her son for some reason takes care of the servant. Since she is now part of the empress's inner circle, she will have to see His Majesty often in the future. The man heard that his woman had accompanied the prince to the ball, thanking her for fulfilling his request. The gray-haired man heard many rumors about the prince's partner, to which the woman said that she was her personal servant, and they arranged her debut. The emperor said that he would be curious to meet the maid personally. Then the lady called out to Paris, asking him to come and greet her husband. The lady came up and bowed, saying that she was glad to meet His Majesty the Emperor. The pink-haired girl said that the girl came from the province, calling Paresa a devoted servant who conscientiously carried out all assignments. The man seemed to suspect something. Both the father and his obnoxious son, they were both acting wary. He noticed that the maid was different from the woman's previous personal maids. The pink-haired woman stated that Paresa is decent and honest, so she trusts her completely. This lady pleases her mistress with her cute face day after day, and does everything that she entrusts her with perfectly. The emperor was worried about why he couldn't get along with his personal servants, and the emperor would be incredibly happy if Paresa stayed with the empress for a long time. The girl was confident that the meeting with His Majesty had ended successfully. Lady Menzel is ready to swear that the atmosphere yesterday was most congenial, and right up until the emperor's departure, things were simply wonderful. The maid said that the girl should not go there now because the woman was not herself. She was crying and raging. Moreover, then the maid is simply obliged to blend in. After all, she is Her Majesty's personal servant. But when the empress is not in the mood, you cannot go to her. You might inadvertently get into trouble yourself. Blue-Eyed was worried that her owner might get hurt. The lady said that there was no need to come in with her because she could handle it alone. When she entered, Her Majesty shouted that she did not allow this impudent girl to enter her room. Blue-Eyed said that in the mornings, Her Majesty usually goes out into the garden for a walk, and her duties include helping with the morning toilet and preparing the dress for the entrance. The crying woman screamed that she had not given the order at all, and that the servant had crossed all possible boundaries of what was permitted, and otherwise she was simply mocking the empress. The brunette said that she was Her Majesty's personal servant, and she could tell her about anything that might bother her. But in an instant, a pillow immediately flew at the girl, because the empress thought that she did not understand anything. Paresa reported that she really understood little, because the empress herself did not tell her anything. Pink stated that she told the lady to get out of here because she didn't want to see anyone, so Paresa is fired. The girl said that if she left, she would immediately have to re-register with the labor exchange and look for a new job. She had the right to know the reason why she was forced to leave her duties. Despite all the humiliation, the devoted servant asked to tell her what made the woman so sad. She said that she, on the contrary, gets angry and takes her anger out on those around her. But despite the fact that the lady spoke like this, Paresa noticed that there were tears on her cheeks and that something unbearably sad had probably happened to her. The empress thought about how wonderful this servant was, acting as if she could see right through her. Perhaps the woman is irritated by the people standing right outside the door. The prince was informed that His Majesty the Emperor had stayed overnight at the Empress's palace and had departed for his own home this morning. He said that, apparently, Mother's maid behaved quietly. Father did not leave him any special messages, and also something was given to the knight upon his return. These were invitations to balls, which were sent apparently because no one had calmed down. By the way, His Highness, no matter how much I thought about it, that maid was still quite nice. Lately the blonde has not been himself. He constantly thinks only about this maid, and he is also somehow overly excited. All the maids told Marie to go with them because their job was to warn them, and the rest was Paris's problem. The brunette herself will soon understand that the ship she boarded is rotten to the core. Paresa helped Her Majesty change her image, saying that she would outshine anyone with her beauty. The Empress doesn't tell her personal servant anything at all. Perhaps she hasn't fully opened her heart to her yet, but it seems she's finally ready to take the first step. Before her marriage, Her Majesty held the title of Baroness, the lowest in the hierarchy, and belonged to a minor noble family. One day at a ball, she met the Emperor, His Majesty, falling in love with her at first sight, immediately proposed to her. The pink-haired girl shared that many people looked at her with disgust because of her low birth. In the society of ladies she was avoided, and she constantly heard ridicule. The Empress would fight back, but she would be called a cruel and selfish villain. The woman was gradually deprived of the powers given to her. Now she is only a conditional empress, and only in her palace can she breathe a sigh of relief. And most likely, this is what the aristocrats were trying to achieve. The lady asked if the empress wanted to continue living like this. The maid took the empress somewhere, saying that there was nothing she could not afford. Since she continues to insist, then the maid will go first. The social season of the Lantius Empire, it is safe to say, is crowned by the ball of the imperial family. It is believed that no one is able to recreate the luxurious atmosphere similar to that organized by the empress at the ball. So, if you want to stand out in high society, you should not miss the imperial ball under any circumstances. However, this changed after the death of the empress. The organization of the ball passed into the hands of the senior member of the imperial family, Duchess Amour. That is why their destination is the house of the Duchess of Amour. Right now, they are here to restore the empress to her former power. The maid was glad that her ladyship had finally decided on justice, so it was worth pulling themselves together and doing what they had to. The Duchess knew that the empress had a hard time making this decision, even though she didn't show her emotions in public, but the woman guessed that it was incredibly difficult for her. An old woman like Countess Amour couldn't help but notice the empress's condition. Her Majesty asked if she was in charge of everything from now on. This was a correct judgment, but there was little time left, and the old woman could suggest that the lady take as a basis what she had already managed to prepare. The woman shared that she is still at a loss. None of the girls expected that everything would be resolved so quickly, since she had been responsible for the preparations all this time. The empress could not believe that this was all real, that it was her turn to be in charge of the imperial ball. The duchess wanted to send her regards to Duke Eris, so she asked her maid to go to the duchy and deliver a letter. The old woman was surprised that Her Majesty had paid such a sudden visit. The duchess had been living for a very long time and had seen a lot. Amour understood that in reality much had changed. But still, sometimes it's fun to do just that. The pink-haired girl was glad that the conversation went well, and that she needed to start active preparations starting tomorrow. It was interesting, knowing that it was Her Majesty who was organizing it, whether people would come to the ball then. Parisa declared that there was no reason to worry, because soon they would all kneel before her mistress. The woman said that she was very tired, to which the maid suggested that she sleep a little, but she fell asleep right on the girl's shoulder. The lady, in her sleep, uttered words of gratitude in honor of Parisa. Sometime later, invitations to the ball organized by the empress were sent to all aristocratic families. From members of the imperial family, dukes, marquises, and counts, to families of viscounts and barons, even the smallest noble families from the provinces were no exception. The text of the letter was not full of innovations, but there was one previously unknown detail. It was surprising that the current empress was listed as the organizer of the ball. It was not like the imperial balls they were used to. It was a completely different feeling. The current empress undoubtedly has a developed sense of beauty. However, one of the secular ladies was surprised that Duchess Amour handed over her powers. Probably Her Majesty and His Highness had become quite close over the past few days. Her Highness came out to the people, thanking everyone for honoring her with a visit. The woman hoped that everyone would have a great time today. As Parisa thought, there was not a single person in the hall who was not taken aback by the incredible beauty of the Empress. Step by step, she will be able to fully recover, and Lady Menzel will return the woman her lost authority. The girl said that Her Majesty is doing great, and she thinks that no one here has been left indifferent. Perhaps this is a reward for hard work. The prince said that his mother knows how to surprise. He has not heard a single unflattering comment so far. The woman noticed that His Highness was shining brighter than usual, saying that she liked him. She suddenly remembered that the man did not like to go to balls, and asked what he would do if the emperor did start talking to his daughter-in-law. The empress helped him with the furnishings, so he should be kind and take a closer look at someone. The girl who entered had not been here for a long time, worried that she was very late, because she had not attended a ball for a long time. Nishi Eris was pleased to welcome Her Majesty. This woman was the aunt of the crown prince, so he decided to go downstairs, asking the girl to help his mother. Her Majesty felt ill, and the prince must admit that he did not expect to see them here at all. They appeared suddenly, without warning anyone. The countess could not miss the imperial ball, organized personally by the empress herself. She was so excited that she completely forgot about time while preparing. The girl asked Her Majesty if she was okay. Nishi walked up to the empress and hugged her, telling her that she had missed her very much. She also added that she really wanted to meet the woman as soon as possible, because during the time they had not seen each other, the pink-haired woman had even managed to organize a ball on her own, and it turned out that she was capable of that too. The countess felt uneasy, But from now on, she and the Empress would see each other more often. People began to say that this was what was to be expected, because did Her Majesty really think that anything could change? She tried so hard to hold on to the prince, but it was all in vain. I thought she was strong and could handle it, but she wasn't. She should have known her place. In an instant, the woman who had organized such a lovely ball became nervous and fainted. Her son shouted for a doctor to be brought quickly and for everyone to pack up, because the ball was over. Nishi guessed that the woman must have been working so hard on the preparations that she had completely forgotten about rest. She wanted to stroke the Empress's head, but the maid immediately grabbed her hand, not allowing her to touch someone else's head. Her energy was released, and the girl herself told her not to dare touch Her Majesty. The prince noticed that Parisa was again unconsciously letting in her aura, but he had warned her and asked her not to do it again. The man ordered the maid to help his mother and follow him, because he would take her to a separate room. The brunette lifted the Empress into her arms and asked her to hurry. Countess Rosal and Nishi had not seen each other for a long time. Many days had passed since their last meeting. The Countess first saw Menzel, asking who this lady was. The redhead said that this was Her Majesty's new personal servant, and as everyone could see, she took great care of the Empress. She waited and couldn't wait for the opportunity to meet her in person and talk. The Empress woke up in the palace at the age of 20. She gradually began to get used to life in the palace, all thanks to one lady. Nishi asked not to be shy about calling her by her first name. The Countess asked Erika how about having a tea party. The woman will have the opportunity to get to know the ladies with whom she is currently having trouble, and then she will be able to communicate with him as freely as with Nishia. Erika was surprised that the lady actually thought so. She was sure that everyone would like the Empress. Soon Her Majesty began preparing for her first tea party. Having tried different drinks, the lady ordered one type of tea to be prepared. Along with the tea set and sweets, selected especially for the tea, the table was decorated with beautiful flowers. I was curious to see what other ladies would like, perhaps some luxurious details. Thinking about the noble ladies she was about to meet, she had been carefully preparing for the tea party for a whole week. And finally, this wonderful day has arrived. Soon, the long-awaited guests arrived, but they were quite late. Underage ladies arrived for tea. Moreover, there were even small children among them, as if whoever selected the guests for the tea party had done so deliberately. This man clearly wanted to show the pink-haired girl what her level really was. The young ladies left one after another, silently, with faces expressing awkwardness, only after having tasted their tea. That very day, a gala ball was held at the Duke of Eres's estate. Although it was a ball spontaneously organized in just 4 days, all the noble ladies of the capital were present at Nishi's evening. The Empress had no one to blame, and no one even to complain to. But this was only the beginning. Then the girl was informed that one of her successors wanted her to stop sponsoring him. The actor stated that if he accepted help from the Empress, he would never be given the role. The younger sister of Emperor Nishi, she concentrated power over the secular society of Lantias in her hands. Her influence was incredibly powerful. People who accepted the Empress's support could not get a role on stage. All noble ladies turned away from the Empress's favorite couturiers. Erika thought it was all because she was from an impoverished family of minor nobles, and she couldn't understand what made Nishi hate her. No matter how hard she tried to understand, she could not find the answer. The Empress was finally forced out of high aristocratic society. She became a lonely, sullen scarecrow. The Empress's palace became her safe haven, and only there could she breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, Her Majesty woke up, and her personal maid ran up to her. She said that the ball had to be interrupted because the organizer fainted. The woman concluded that she had been too self-confident. Erika never had the strength to stand up to Nishi Eris herself. Then, Parisa realized that the Countess had come to the ball in order to ruin the evening for the Empress. Her Majesty naively believed that if Nishi had been absent from the capital for a long time, then everything would be fine, even if she decided to return. But in the end, everything turned out this way. The Pink One has allowed herself a lot of things lately. Parisa understood that when the Empress fainted, she had lost control of herself again. The girl stated that Erika was free to do whatever she wanted, and no one would dare to reproach her for it. The maid noticed that the magical power inside her whispered something to her. The whisper said that this woman was the very person she had been looking for so long. The servants knelt down on one knee and swore an oath, promising to be sometimes Her Majesty's sword and sometimes her shield. She swore to protect her ladyship from anyone who dared to intimidate her. The lady was very sorry that she could not explain herself, but when the time came, she would definitely tell her mistress everything. But she can safely promise that she will be a reliable ally in the future, until it fulfills its true purpose. Parisa swore that she would devote herself entirely to Her Majesty the Empress. The prince informed his aunt that everyone else was gradually leaving, and that she too should return home. The woman was pleased when she was not taken care of so much. The man said that his mother had gone away to rest a bit, so he wished everyone a good journey. The ladies discussed something, most likely some kind of plan among themselves, and then said goodbye to each other. The blonde said that nothing had changed. The blonde looked pleased, but at the same time claimed that she had no idea what the heir was talking about. The countess wished His Highness good night, for it was probably time for her to take her leave. He needed to know more about the power of the Dunamis kingdom. There must be a good reason to break a promise on which your safety directly depends. The green-eyed man was very sorry that they couldn't even be alone together for long. The waters of the Sea of Aegis wash 3 states, Lantius, Dunamis, and Oligot. At the end of the divine era, the sea god Aegis split the earth into pieces. Having spent his last strength, he filled the sea, which exists to this day. The divine blessing bestowed upon them was divided into 3 components, which are now passed down from generation to generation in each of the 3 coastal states. Among them was a component that gave the bearers the magical power of attributes. This powerful power laid the foundation for the Lantius Empire, and it is only granted to the direct heirs to the throne. A component that allows one to harness the power of mysterious spirits, it gave birth to the kingdom of Oligot. Unlike the Lantius, each member of the royal family has their own unique, personally granted ability. The bearers of the blessing in Dunamis are different from the people who lead the neighboring countries. They managed to suppress the enemies with their physical strength and willpower. They fought bravely on the battlefield until the victorious end. They managed to obtain the blessing, which eventually turned into a power that was granted to people regardless of their origin. But the bearers of the aura have special obligations. This is what is called that very purpose. The fugitive could not sleep, and this meant following her duty. Although she received a blessing, for a long time she could not figure out what her purpose was. But now the brunette knows that a path has been found that she must follow. First, she must focus on protecting the Empress, so step by step, the girl will definitely fulfill her duty. Nishi said that they hadn't seen Baron Cowell for a long time. He asked if everything was okay with the lady, and also thanked her for the invitation, because he was glad that the woman had not forgotten about him. He also added that the Countess had nothing to worry about, because everything was exactly as they had planned. The blonde warned that she had high expectations on this matter. The man then suggested testing how long the maid could last. The servant woke up with the thought that her body felt lighter, and it was time to get to work. When Parisa saw the other maids, she noticed that they were ignoring her, saying that even though they were given days off after the ball, it was too hard without a vacation. When a girl named Pei greeted her friend, she was pushed in the shoulder. They changed the topic to the fact that they had to prepare to receive guests in the morning. The girls discussed among themselves how stupid the face of the Empress's personal servant was. She brought this attitude upon herself and didn't even realize what she had done. It was interesting what they had been told, that the negative consequences even extended to the brunette. Marie was sorry, but she could do nothing, because Parisa herself had chosen this path. The lady herself considered them a bunch of fools, because they couldn't scare her with such tricks. The bird died at the hands of the cat, but the little girl was so hopeful that it could survive if the cat treated it. But she stopped eating and drinking and still died. Nishi said that she did her best, and she thinks the bird was very happy until its last breath. Nishi Eris is the younger sister of the emperor, the princess of the Lantius Empire. For the first time in several generations, a long-awaited girl was born in the imperial family. She always received endless love from her father and brother. As for marriage, the duke was not a conscious choice. They have a son who will become a worthy successor in the future. The incredible thing is that she's just a perfect lady, as if she came out of a painting. The empress said that it was impossible to understand what she was planning just by looking at the pretty wrapper. She was doing everything to make her completely lose her mind. The aristocrats all move in the same Soviet circles, and they are all rotten to the core. That is, the woman says that since that tea party, there has not been a day when she has not tried to cause problems for Her Majesty, Parisa thought. Then the lady caused a furor in Soviet society. But if everything were so good, then Erica would have gotten rid of 22 personal maids. Each of them eventually became Nisha's accomplice. They watched with impatience, trying to catch her ladyship in the moment of humiliation. That's why she couldn't find a personal servant for herself. When the girl was giving the oath, the empress asked to raise her head, thinking that they had sent their lackey here again, and you couldn't count on your fingers how many maids the woman had kicked out of here. Erica asked if Parisa was really on her side, since not many people had taken her side during all this time. And then, none of them tolerated Nishi's manipulations. They all simply ran away like cowards. Erika really hoped that her new personal maid wouldn't do that. The pink-haired girl wanted the maid to teach her because now she was going to confront Nishi, asking what she should do to protect the lady. After finding out what Lady Menzel's purpose is, she realized something. Even if she doesn't have a sword in her hands, she is ready to fight in the name of duty at any moment. The emergence of a direct threat to the well-being of Her Majesty allowed the maid to realize this. Now this is the purpose of her whole life. But the blue-eyed girl is still a little awkward. She probably won't share her feelings. Then, first of all, you should contact His Highness because you need to meet and talk. The woman said that she feels fine and does not experience any difficulties in moving. No one could have imagined how happy the blonde was that he was invited on his own for the first time. He asked what the ladies wanted to talk to him about. Parisa said that she would tell everything, but before that, she asked the lady to leave. The man said that, by the way, the personal maid had something to say. He asked why the lady had broken her promise to him. The lady said that this is what she was going to talk to him about. Having said that during yesterday's ball, she swore allegiance and made an oath to Her Majesty. The girl was wondering if he would guess, because she herself was confirming that she was a knight of Bologna. The blonde asked her why the brunette had taken the knight's oath. Of course, in order to resist anyone who dares to threaten the safety and well-being of Her Majesty, even if that person turns out to be His Highness the Crown Prince himself. The maid asked whose side His Highness was on, the side of the Empress or the side of the Duchess of Arras. At this, the blonde simply laughed, although there was nothing funny about this question. Well, it was high time she came to her senses. Her maid sometimes behaves too impudently. The Empress considered her son a shady character. He was only good at grinning. This was clear evidence of hidden intentions. But nothing can be done about it, because he is only the Crown Prince. The man wanted to say that the Crown Prince was forced to follow the will of the Emperor. His Highness has asked to borrow Her Majesty's personal maid for a short chat. The man asked to sit down, because they had something to sit down, but it was not proper for a servant to sit in the presence of a prince. And the prince was not against it, or maybe she prefers to look down on her interlocutor. The green-eyed man decided to get straight to the point, since the lady mentioned an oath of knightly loyalty, but something tells him that this is not all. He assumed that the girl had learned what her destiny was and was now fulfilling it as a knight of Bologna. The brunette seemed to be looking into the water because the prince was a very smart person. Everything was quite logical, and it was strange not to guess. But even so, no one could suspect her. One good prince hid the maid's aura with his energy, although of course she created quite a mess. It can be considered that now she is in his debt. The girl does not want the Emperor to find out about her secret, and His Highness assumed that this would complicate everything. The blue-eyed woman asked how the man knew that she did it because of destiny. It was a completely different, special aura that was difficult to simply feel. The prince replied that he did not know this at all, although he had made a premature conclusion. The blessing in dunamis is an exceptional thing. The purpose is a kind of phenomenon. People who have acquired power usually use it for the benefit of the kingdom, and the lady, although she received the status of a knight of Bologna, eventually fled from her homeland. And he thought, this is her mission. In other words, the girl's duty, it turns out, must be somehow special or atypical. The brunette noticed that, surprisingly, His Highness was extremely frank for the first time. To be honest, the blonde intended to build a trusting relationship, oddly enough. Although he acted in accordance with the imperial will, he and his father still thought differently. The maid apologized for her insolence, but she couldn't help but ask if this meant that His Majesty was not being completely honest with the Empress. The father, of course, knows about the conflict between his wife and his younger sister. Besides, the heir thinks that his mother also guesses about this. That's why she was upset. But not so, he says. The man is similar to his father in this. The prince simply understood what the position of emperor entailed. Instead of taking sides in a conflict, he should try to resolve it. The man asked Perez why he thought his aunt had left the capital for 2 years. She had hardly traveled. Perhaps it was because of his father's order, given for the benefit of his mother. It turns out that all this time he was justifying himself by fulfilling his duty, but in fact, he was avoiding the problem. But such statements could lead to problems for Menzel. But the girl did not swear allegiance to the Lantius imperial family because she only serves Her Majesty the Empress. She has been suffering for 10 whole years, and the last 2 years have been no exception. And His Highness must have known this. Even in the absence of the Duchess of Arras, those who were subject to her influence looked down on Her Majesty, humiliated her, and spread dirty rumors. The man knows because Erika has complained about this kind of treatment more than once. The emperor insisted that Nishi would not do this on purpose. There would definitely be a reason for it, promising to talk to his sister. And the worst thing is that Her Majesty felt guilty before her son and husband. The maid said that no excuse would work here, and both he and His Majesty had been negligent. The green-eyed man said that so be it, and they ignore the problems. But the idealized picture in the girl's head and what is actually happening are two different things. His Majesty warned the aristocracy many times. They tried in every way to prevent ridicule and made sure that they did not cross the line. The prince personally did this. His Highness asked the maid whether he did not think he was better informed about their receipt than she was. The brunette said that her mistress is suffering more than they think, and the lady is not going to ignore it. It may have been noble of His Majesty to remain neutral, but to watch someone suffering with indifference was not in Parisa's plans. Therefore, the blue-eyed one will repeat everything and ask His Highness once again whose side he is on. For some reason, the man couldn't lie when looking into those eyes. Earlier, the man spoke about a trusting relationship. If the girl wants him to be frank again and reveal his position, then two conditions should be met. First of all, Menzel must return the favor during the imperial ball. And secondly, a lady should not refuse His Highness's offers to meet. 3 days later, Countess Boucher arrived at the imperial palace. That morning, the personal maid told him about the countess's visit, reminding him that it was time to start getting ready little by little. The lady stated that further avoiding those around her would not make things easier for the empress. Even though Duchess Eris had surrounded herself with a crowd of henchmen, however, not all the aristocrats took her side. The brunette said that they, too, had better make sure that people followed Erica, and first, she should notice the favor of the likes of Countess Bush, and not reject those who clearly treated her well. The woman herself would not like to reject them, but she remembers the face of everyone who was kind to her and really wants to establish relationships with them. The guest could not afford to come empty-handed, so she brought a flower arrangement as a gift, which she personally composed. However, the Empress suggested leaving the gifts for later, inviting everyone for a cup of tea. To be honest, from their first meeting the lady was enchanted. Even with her husband, she had not experienced anything like this. The Empress said that if her interlocutor did not mind, then she would like to see her more often, because she must take responsibility for what she said. But suddenly, the girl interrupted their conversation, suggesting that they move to another room. The prince stated that the girl was perhaps the only servant on the network who reacted in this way to the crown prince. Beisha asked her to forgive her, and here she had to ask His Highness for advice. He told her that the woman loved to draw, and it so happened that the countess did too. She persuaded him to help with the preparations because she really wanted to draw with the empress. One of the maids asked if His Highness would be painting, but since everyone was gathered, he could not stay away. The pink-haired girl was overly grateful to Beisha for her visit today. Although it was small, the lady also prepared a gift for her guest. The empress will be very happy if the girl likes it, because it contains her favorite flower tea. And please, when she has time next time, she can feel at home. Despite His Highness's status, the maid began to laugh when she saw him drawing. This work was truly amazing. Erica asked what they were doing here again, since her personal maid even got down on her knees. The brunette explained that they didn't do anything special. To tell the truth, she expected a little more about His Highness's drawing skills. The woman ordered to answer immediately, because after she left a couple of days ago, they also talked about something. Countess Boucher became their ally at the right time. She is capable and definitely trustworthy. The man was clearly already looking at her. The countess married early, so she has been in high society for a long time. Thanks to her position, even her aunt's influence does not extend to her. Neo, the prince, has never shown that he supports the empress. He is confident that everything will be fine if he openly takes his mother's side, rejecting Nishi. The man replied that Her Majesty's closest servant was very loyal to her. Her words touched the blonde and made him rethink his point of view. He hopes that he will be able to forgive him for his indifference. The countess had already taken Erica's side, and she had certainly attracted the attention of noble ladies who were not recognized as Nisha's favorites. Although they are all tightly connected, but subject to a strict hierarchy, ladies from lower clans and newcomers are likely to have a hard time adapting to society, but they are all obviously frightened by the unfair treatment that Nishi will bestow upon them in full for the choice made in favor of the empress. Parisa said that she knew how Her Majesty cared for people. The prince said that this was one of the reasons why Parisa had turned to him for help, so that they would be confident that he would be able to provide his people with the necessary protection. The emperor's birthday is coming soon. Nishi arrived at the grave, but so much water had already flowed under the bridge. Lantius was no exception. Where the emperor is revered as a god, here the emperor's birthday is much more grandiose. Aristocrats from all over the empire flock to the capital for a gala ball in order to have an audience with the emperor. Even in the presence of the Duchess of Eris, despite her impeccable reputation, the emperor's wife, the empress, must shine brighter than anyone else. Even aristocrats from the top of secular society are obliged to express their hypocritical respect on this day. No one would risk openly expressing their worthless position in such a situation. The empress is free to do whatever she wants. She, the empress after all, can afford to have many noble families from the provinces take part in the event. She will have a wonderful chance to show them all her nobility. The crown prince said that the pink-haired girl had nothing to fear, because he already said that he would help her in everything, and the woman only has to trust him. Erica had a headache and asked her personal maid what she thought of what the crown prince had said. It seems that His Highness is not the type to lie about something like this, in case he really is able to help his mother. The prince is indeed a smart fellow, and the woman thinks that he has a lot of ideas, but she still can't figure out why he decided to take her side. Also, Her Majesty asked, if you think about it, the maid had recently spoken with the prince alone, asking her what he had told her. The lady immediately remembered that a girl should not refuse to meet with him. The brunette told the empress that the heir could not be refused if he gave her an assignment. Of course, Parisa set a condition not to ask for anything that could in any way harm his mother. Perhaps he wants a reliable person to be next to the empress. But even if he had something in mind, the servant would still not be informed. The knight asked what His Highness had in mind, since he had previously planned not to interfere. The man said that he could handle it, but he was the heir to the throne, and no one would dare threaten him. However, he claimed that it was the will of His Majesty, and therefore did not interfere in the relationship between the Empress and the Duchess. But he is interested in the reason why he violated this unspoken rule. Parisa said that she and her father had been careless up until now, and the prince was able to refute this. The blonde noticed that the lady was looking at him with her clear blue eyes, the expression on her face, and the eyes that he saw then. It was impossible to understand unless you had seen it with your own eyes. The man was drowning in them, so deeply that for a moment he lost the power of speech. This is how it all happened. The prince is going to entrust Claude with one very important task. At the ball in honor of the emperor's birthday, he must carefully ensure that not a single garbage bag dares to touch Parisa with its dirty little hands, and if necessary, he will have to accompany her. By the way, since the blonde man entrusted this to him, what is His Highness going to do? But the man planned to be absent that day. Just think, even the locked door doesn't stop them. Nothing is missing. The brunette realized that she couldn't rely only on her feelings. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to tolerate such an attitude. At first, they completely isolated her from society, and now they have made it clear that her life is at risk. Well, they actually challenged Parisa. She has no reason to tolerate that. The girl told Marie that everyone had collectively decided to ignore her, and now she had come here for some reason, but she didn't have time for idle chatter, and it was time to get straight to the point. Marie asked if Menzel realized why everything turned out this way, because it's not difficult yet. She needs to stop being stubborn, and also say that she made a mistake out of ignorance. The girl apologized, but she had not made any mistakes. But the maid was not joking, because the lady was wrong to think that Her Majesty would be able to protect her. The brunette said that she should be more careful with her words, because she, after all, served in the Empress's palace, and think at her leisure about which of them had made the right choice. Marie screamed that it was stupid of her to try to help the maid, telling her to take care of herself, because when she regretted what she had done, it would be too late. Blue-Eyed replied that no matter how much time passed, it was important to realize her mistakes. If she ever changed her mind, then Parisa would be waiting for her at any time. There is about a month left until His Majesty the Emperor's birthday. The next day, the Duchess of Boucher paid a visit, bringing with her the very lady she had mentioned. The woman introduced Countess Hartley, who had been her friend since her youth. The Empress asked the lady not to be nervous, because she just wanted to make friends, as she had no one to drink tea with. To be honest, the lady was a little embarrassed, because she never expected that Her Majesty would be so beautiful in real life. Countess Boucher pleasantly surprised them. From that very tea party, the Countess began to invite provincial aristocrats to the palace. Over time, they were all introduced to Her Majesty. The Countess managed to maintain a relaxed atmosphere at court. In addition, she managed to grasp the trends maturing in the new team and formed a circle of common interests. In this connection, the problem of Her Majesty's influence being put aside, the lady is excited by the sudden opportunity to enjoy cultured society. Thus, positive experience kept accumulating, and eventually it helped the depressed empress feel human again. New friends reminded Her Majesty that she had something to respect herself for. The appearance of the Duchess of Eris had a negative impact on her health, and the brunette is glad that everything is getting better. The blonde said he needed to talk to Parisa, so he asked to stay a little longer. The man said that when he was about to return, he should drop in to see the prince for a minute, because there was something he wanted to share personally. The aunt arrived because her nephew wanted to see her. The blonde said that it was all a pretense. She probably knew better than many that his neutrality could not be shaken by ingratiation. However, he wanted to meet the Duchess because he had something to offer her. The talk was about the blue full moon. It is rising for the second time this month. It is called the Mirror of Aegis. The brunette was surprised that she already had a dress that she bought with her vacation money, and they were already choosing a new outfit for her. At the imperial ball, everyone present must maintain the bar. Parisa is Her Majesty's personal servant. She, like no one else, is obliged to worry about her appearance. Finally, the emperor's birthday arrived. The lady bowed and asked His Majesty to accept her congratulations, to which he blessed the girl's family. Today we saw for the first time how delightful the empress looks. However, there are some ridiculous rumors circulating about Eric, wondering if they are true. They say she is extremely cruel, stupid, and arrogant, a villain who tortures her charges, and if given a reason, she will get rid of them. The emperor saw a beautiful and sweet lady here, but isn't the refutation of these absurd tales right before his eyes? It was worth remembering that she had been married to the emperor for 10 years in a row. If she had been a notorious villain, they would not have lived so many years together. The gala ball in honor of the birthday of His Majesty, the emperor was declared open. The man said that he had appointed new knights to the empress's palace. All of them were recommended by the crown prince, and he personally supervised them, so they were trustworthy. Since she and Eric are married, today is a special day for her in its own way, so her husband decided to give this as a gift. From now on, one knight serves in the palace of the empress, and here, in front of everyone present, the emperor ordered a solemn oath that he, until the end of his days, will be devoted only to the empress. As one would expect, it is impossible to simply ignore Her Majesty. Their first meeting took Paresa's breath away, her appearance alone being her undoubted weapon. Her beauty is unimaginable. She evokes fear and awe. That is why she so stubbornly hindered the empress's social activity. In the end, it was carefully planned, but today it's a completely different story. Parisa informed the empress that the sooner everything was ready, the more time there would be to catch her breath. The woman was worried whether everything would be okay if she saw Nishi during the ball. She was afraid that she would lose consciousness again. But it was an important event, so the lady tried to calm the lady down, asking her not to worry. The prince promised that the Duchess would not come to the ball at all, and he himself met Nishi, saying that it was high time to meet his mother. Menzel did not say that the Duchess would not come because she was afraid that the Empress would relax too much. However, the deed is done, so today Her Majesty will be able to deservedly enjoy the ball as an Empress. The woman wondered why the Crown Prince was trying so hard to hide. The lady reported that this time the prince did not deserve